Somebody forgot to turn that on. The balance that we're always trying to feel balanced. We need to feel positive toward ourselves, and of course that's what self-affirmations are all about. You're trying to convince yourself that you're not wrong. Self-affirmations help people feel good about themselves in spite of the fact that they engage in this destructive behavior, such as smoking. Marijuana is big as far as cognitive dissonance is concerned. It's really hard to rationalize. I mean, it was illegal, still illegal in this state. Is it good? Is it bad? There are people that try to rationalize smoking marijuana, and they do this with different types of affirmations. I was reading a posting the other day, and this lady swore that marijuana cured cancer. She said, everybody knows that marijuana cures cancer. I was thinking, where did that come from? So I looked it up on the internet, and I tried to find any website that said that marijuana cured cancer. Marijuana has a connection with cancer, but not a curing connection. It causes cancer. I couldn't find it. And she said at the very beginning of her discussion, everybody knows that marijuana cures cancer. That was her premise. Now, potentially this individual smokes marijuana and she rationalizes that in her own mind by saying that it's good for you. It cures cancer. If you keep a select amount of THC and CBD in your system, that she pointed all this out, that it will cure, that you will never get cancer, that it will cure cancer. Of course, Bob Marley died of, he was a ganja smoker, which was really strong down in Jamaica. He had cancer. He had cancer of the toenail, and it spread throughout his body, and he eventually died of cancer.
I'm waiting for Snoop Dogg to get lung cancer.
I've been waiting for Snoop Dogg to get lung cancer myself. Or to just kind of dry up and blow away or something. That's not the most attractive man in the world. Yeah, he seems to be getting skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. I haven't figured that one out. So self-affirmations, they might try to bolster their self-concept in a different domain. Yes, it is not very smart of me to be smoking, but I'm really a very good mathematician. People rationalize the use of things that are relatively destructive by saying, yeah, but look at all the smart people that do this. That's a really good way to rationalize your own behavior. They've already replaced these windows. I don't know what they're doing out there. Oh well, maybe they're taking those things off. The process of reducing pain is largely unconscious. This isn't usually a conscious thought. It's usually subconscious. It's subliminal. We're trying to rationalize some of the negative things that we do. We all do negative things. I do negative things. I try to be as healthy as I possibly can. But I'm drinking Code Red. I drink Code Red. At least one can a day, sometimes two.
Keeps it out early.
I don't know. It's red. I don't know if that's why it works, but it tastes good. I like the taste of it. But people rationalize drinking beer, they rationalize drinking whiskey, they rationalize smoking pot, they rationalize using crystal meth. You can rationalize just about anything that you do. I haven't really rationalized my Code Red yet. The only thing that I tell myself is, it's probably not hurting me. That's what I say. I'm probably burning all those calories up, which is, and I always check my 2,721 steps so far today. So if I can get to 10,000, I burn off all those calories. That's my rationale. But most of this is unconscious, of course. And of course, what we're trying to do is we need to be happy. And of course, we can rationalize our smoking by saying it makes us feel good, makes us feel happy. Without my cigarettes, I get kind of grouchy. That's a good way to do it. That's how I rationalize my Code Red habit. I just had a can of Mountain Dew before I came to class. I'm all pumped up, I'm ready to go.
You made me want a Monster, or a Red Bull, or a Rockstar now.
Oh, there's a Red Bull right
You triggered me. Triggered my addiction.
there. I'll tell you, there's a lot more caffeine in a Red Bull than there is in a Mountain Dew. That can has 83 milligrams of caffeine, and a 12-ounce can of Mountain Dew has 53. So that's not even 12 ounces. So you're getting a lot more caffeine than I do.
So you're saying I need to switch to Red Bull?
No. If you drink Rockstar, if you drink Monster, what's the other one? Monster, Red Bull, Rockstar. Anyway, they all have a lot more caffeine than Red Bull does. Red Bull only has 83 milligrams per 8.3 ounces or whatever that is. But your Monster has like 200.
So is
160 for 60 ounces.
Dissonance, is that like when you go to McDonald's and you order a Diet Coke with your Happy Meal?
Yeah, exactly.
You think of being healthy?
Exactly. This is in Nebraska when I was much younger. I was standing behind a lady and she had her shopping cart full of Little Debbie's. Little Debbie's this, Little Debbie's that. I mean, anything that Little Debbie's made, she had it going on. And she was kind of a doughy lady. She's real pale and she's kind of paunchy. Anyway, and she hadn't washed her hair in a couple of weeks. But she had all these Little Debbies in there, and of course she's as fat as a toad. But she had Diet Pepsi with her Little Debbies. She was going to drink Diet Pepsi with her Little Debbies, and that would have taken care of everything. Diet drinks negate all of the calories that you eat. Did you know that? It does, up here. That's where it does. That's where it takes care of it. We rationalize bad news to try to reduce our disappointment. This individual got an F on the history test. He rationalized it by saying, I hate history anyway. The teacher hates me, and he's probably right. When teachers give you an F, it's not because you earned it, it's because they hate you. You can take that one to the bank. Okay. Impact bias is the tendency to overestimate the intensity and the duration of our emotional reactions to future negative events. When we think about the future, we overestimate how bad negative events, like the end of a romantic relationship, will make us feel. So how bad is it going to be? Well, we assume that I'm going to be ruining the fact that my second wife left for the rest of my life. But the reality is I got over it in about, 17, 18 months. Only went down to 119 pounds. Fell out of a helicopter one time at 117 pounds. They figured I didn't hurt myself so badly because I was so light.
Is this different than from self-fulfilling prophecy? Or is it related?
Well, self-fulfilling prophecy is where you think that you're going to feel bad, so you do feel bad, and you overextend it. This is impact bias is actually kind of the opposite, because you think it's going to bother you for the rest of your life, and then you get over it in like the next day.
Okay.
Yeah, that's impact bias. So you overestimate how badly this is going to hurt you. Of course, when you first break up, you're sure that you're going to love that person for the rest of your life, and this is going to be the worst day of your life. And then, of course, the next day you meet somebody that rocks your world or something.
Right.
I don't know what's happening. Do they call it rocking your world anymore? No. Okay. What we fail to recognize is that dissonance reduction often helps us bounce back very quickly. Now, the reality is that we can't feel bad for an extended length of time. Our brains won't allow us to do that. So we'll start rationalizing why this happened, the fact that it's not our fault, the fact that they're not the best person in the whole wide world. Our brains will start doing that because we can't handle the pain. It's like depression. You can't stay depressed for an extended length of time. Your brain won't let you do it. It hurts too much. So what you'll do is you'll try to produce more serotonin. You can't stay really depressed for an extended length of time. And it's the same way with anxiety. You just can't do that for an extended length of time. So if you have an excessive amount of anxiety, you will start producing more GABA in your brain in order to counteract that. So we're trying to constantly be balanced. So despite the fact that you may rue the fact that you lost your first wife or lost your second wife, in my case I lost both of them, I got over it. Eventually I got over it, and it didn't take very long because, my brain's not going to allow me to feel bad for an extended length of time. It just doesn't happen. I mean, otherwise I'd probably get depressed and die. And I certainly didn't want that to happen. Given that people have successfully reduced dissonance in the past, why is it that they are not aware that they will do so in the future? So something bad happens. The wrong guy gets elected president of the United States. Oh my God, he's going to be there for 4 years, whoever he may happen to be. So how long are you going to stay depressed? How bad is it going to be? Well, you're probably going to feel bad for a couple days, but then after that, you start rationalizing, well, this is going to be okay. The federal government never self-destructs just because of a bad president. I mean, that's what they said about Obama. And that's what the Republicans said about Obama. That's what the Democrats are saying about Trump. So how long is it going to be? So do people stay really depressed for an extended length of time? Well, my wife was really pissed off. And she was feeling really bad for about a month, maybe 2 months, because she wanted the first woman president. That's what she wanted. I don't know that she wanted Hillary, but she wanted the first woman president. But now she's okay. And so what did she do to make herself feel better? She became very active in politics. And she figured, well, if things are bad, if I contribute to the next election, then potentially we'll be able to get good people in office. And that's exactly what happened in 2018. There were a lot of people that were activated because of some of the things that Trump did, some of the things that he said, the fact that he was saying negative things about women. They had that strange march on Washington where everybody wore
The hats.
the cat hats. Let's call them cat hats. Let's not call them anything else. Okay, they wore the pink hats with the ears. There was another name for it. Anyway, yeah. So a lot of people became activated, and look how many women were elected to Congress in the last election. I mean, not just in Iowa, but all over the United States. People that, potentially the first American Indian congressperson, our female congresspeople were elected. The lady from New Mexico, yeah. The lady from Missouri, that was the UFC fighter. Kick everybody's butt. She's an American Indian as well. She was elected. Just some Ocasio-Cortez in New York City. Normally would she have won? And the answer is probably no. But in this climate, of course, with everyone trying to take care of their impact bias, everybody became activated. They became activists. It's not very effective to hear ourselves say, I'll try to make myself feel better by convincing myself that the person who was just rejected, who has just rejected me, is an idiot. We can say that to ourselves, of course, right after it happens. You don't call the person an idiot. It's later on that you decide that this person did the dumbest thing in the whole wide world. Before that, of course, you're so madly in love with them, you can't say anything negative about them. And your life is over as we know it But eventually, of course, she realized that, oh, well, if they didn't love me, then how much can I love them? They really are an idiot. It is more effective if we unconsciously transform our view of the interviewer. We feel better believing that objectively he is not an idiot because I'm not so stupid that I would be in love with an idiot. Because the dissonance reduction process is mostly unconscious, we do not anticipate that it will save us from future angst. But of course, that's exactly what happens. Like I said, we can't maintain negative thoughts for an extended length of time because we need to feel balanced. We need to feel happy. We're all looking for happiness. Hopefully, that's our median point, is to be happy, not giddy, perhaps, but happy. I don't know where I found this picture. It's too late. They were sitting on a fence and all of a sudden they fell backwards on the fence. While Festinger found that any conflicting cognitions could cause dissonance, Aronson in 1969 discovered that the most painful dissonant cognitions are those about ourselves. When our self-concept or our self-esteem is threatened by the cognition that violates our view of ourselves, of course, then we have cognitive dissonance. So if we thought of ourselves as a good person and we did something bad, that would bother us. That'd bother us a lot more than if somebody else did it. We just saw this with Cohen's testimony before Congress. Really kind of interesting what he said. For 10 years he was the fixer for Donald Trump, and of course he was convicted of lying and fraud, and now he has to rationalize his behavior. So one of the things he did was go before Congress and testify against the president in order to reestablish his self-esteem. People do not like to feel that they are a bad person. They may brag about it, and that's what he was doing before. He would take a bullet for Donald Trump. But once he was convicted and he realized that he'd been caught doing all these negative things, he realized that he needed to reestablish his own self-esteem, and that's when he started testifying against Donald Trump. Before he would accept it. This is and this is something that Aronson found. Now, why in 1969 would we be looking at this kind of stuff? What happened in 1969?
The height of the Vietnam War?
It was the height of the Vietnam War. It was a war that was half a world away.
Was Nixon? Had he left by then? Or was he?
Yeah, he was elected in 1968. So yeah, Nixon was president of the United States. Nixon was kind of a shady guy. He used a lot of tricks and that's one of the reasons they called him Tricky Dick. Was because he used a lot of tricks to get elected. He had run for president in 1960 and lost to Kennedy, of course. And then he came back in 1968 and was elected president. In the next election, of course, he would be caught breaking into the Democratic headquarters. And they were placing a bug in Democratic headquarters so they could figure out what was going on. That's Watergate. Yeah, so there's a lot of strange stuff going on. Vietnam is going on at this time. There were a lot of individuals, and including me. Yeah, of course, I joined the military. In 1969, I was a sophomore in college, but in 1971, despite the fact I knew that the war was wrong, that it didn't make any sense, I still joined the military.
There was a lot of political discord too. People were organizing, marching for
Exactly.
rights, minorities.
Well, there were two things going on at the same time. We had civil rights taking place. AIM, of course, took off in 1971, but we had the Vietnam War. The anti-war movement was taking place. And we also had civil rights taking place. So if you wanted to be on if you wanted to be on the right side, the question was which side was the right side. Well, obviously civil rights made a lot of sense, so that was the right side. But in order to be a member of that, in order to be to support that, you also had to be anti-war, because the two movements were moved in parallel, which was tough. That was a tough one. So you couldn't join the military and be favorable towards civil rights. But as it turned out, in the military, of course, that's probably the least racist place you can possibly go, is in the United States military, because they could order you not to be a racist.
You didn't have a choice.
Didn't have a choice. No matter how racist you were when you went in, you came out not a racist anymore. Well, not only that, but the guy standing beside you is the guy that's got to protect you. And you've got to protect him. No matter what he looks like or how negative you may have thought him before you went in. He's the guy that has to protect you, as horrible as that is. Anyway, so you come out not a racist. In any decision between two cars, two colleges, two potential lovers, the chosen alternative is seldom entirely positive, and the rejected alternative is seldom entirely negative. So let's say that you're trying to decide between two people, two significant others. You have two individuals that you may potentially marry. And this happened to me once upon a long time ago. I had to decide between my current wife and somebody else. The negatives were not that great. The positives were, there were a lot of positives about both of them. So how in the world do you make that decision? How do you make that decision? Flip a coin. Oh, no, the coin wouldn't work.
These are 50-50.
No, well, it wasn't really a 50-50. It was really more a 60-40. How old was I when this happened? 27, 28 years old. I was 27, 28 years old. It was time to grow up. I wasn't, should I marry the Playboy bunny or should I marry the lady who's not a Playboy bunny? That was the question. And as an 18-year-old, I would have married the Playboy bunny, hands down, no questions asked. And of course, I did that once before, and look what happened to me. I ended up getting a divorce in about 5 months. So, yeah, I had to grow up. Damn it, I had to grow up. I had to make that decision, and I made the right decision. I chose the woman I could talk to, the woman that I could have a conversation with. The other lady, I went to her house. She was stationed in Schusterburg, Holland, Amsterdam, right outside of Amsterdam, Schusterburg. I went to her house one day, and her apartment, and she didn't have any reading material except for a People magazine. That was the only reading material she had in her whole house. If you went to my current wife's house, she had a whole rack full of books. She had all these records. You know, she was an intellectual. She was somebody you could have a conversation with. The other lady, it wasn't the first thing on your mind. Was the conversation you were going to have. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be realistic. That's just the way it works. So I chose the person I could have a conversation with, and that was the right decision. We still have conversations all the time. I talked to her last night on the telephone for over an hour. We were just talking about, stuff. She's really into politics right now. Of course, I have a degree in political science, so that's kind of exciting. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. So there's never an entirely negative or entirely positive thing. There's a reason why I put this picture up here. These are peeled bananas. I can imagine eating banana mush, but comparing that with 2 Code Reds, which taste great. Get a lot more potassium with the bananas. Get about the same number of calories. More carbs in the Mountain Dew. No protein, but protein in the peeled bananas. So which do you pick? The bananas or the Mountain Dew? Well, if you don't like Mountain Dew, it's easy. I can't imagine eating mushy bananas in a pouch. Just, oh God.
Choose bananas.
Did you gonna go with the bananas? Bananas have an interesting taste when they're old. So while making the decision, you have doubts. After the decision, your cognition that you are the smart person, or a smart person, is dissonant with aspects that didn't fit your choice, of course. So sometimes you make a choice and it turns out it was the wrong choice. And I've done that myself lots and lots and lots of times. You go after flashy rather than logical. I do have a sports car. I own a sports car. I couldn't get it started this morning. I think the battery's dead. Whoops. I'll drive it tomorrow if I can get the battery jumped. When given a choice between two equal alternatives, the healthy mind will reduce the post-decision dissonance by downplaying the negatives of the chosen alternative, downplaying the positives of the rejected alternative, and this was proven by Bream in 1956. There's always negatives and positives. She's trying to decide between the dark shirt blouse and the white blouse. There's always negatives and positives. I decided to wear my clown shirt today. And my red shoes. My red shoes match my shirt. More dissonance is created when the decision is important. There's also more dissonance created when the decision is permanent. The more permanence the decision, the more dissonance that it creates. And of course, you can imagine when we're talking about being married to somebody that this created a great deal of dissonance as far as I was concerned. I still think about the other lady from time to time going, well, if I had chosen her, then yada, 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 yada. One thing that happened, my current wife didn't want to have any kids. I wanted more children, but it didn't work out that way. The other lady couldn't have kids, and then she had a problem. And once she got herself fixed, she had a set of twins. So, I mean, I could have had 2 more kids, I guess. Maybe.
So what does it mean when people are having a lot of dissonance about things that are not really important, like not major life-changing decisions?
You know, the crazy thing is we shouldn't even worry about that kind of stuff. You know, the minor things, we shouldn't even worry about that stuff.
I know some people like stress out on what shoes they're going to wear. You know, little thing, I freak out.
You do? You freak out?
Well, I just freak out that people.
Oh, freak out that they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. She asked me to she was artificially inseminated. She asked me to provide the sperm. I decided not to do it.
Your ex?
That was a wise decision.
Your ex asked you to do that?
Yeah. Yeah, and I, you know, I could have 2 kids someplace else, but I have to take care of my own family. I have to take care of my own. They need to turn out to be good people. Well, I need them to be good people. I need to take care of them, make sure that they're good people. So, I'm a psychologist after all. So I understand these things. She lives down in Georgia, down on the Georgia-Florida border, in the Okeechobee Swamp. So she's a swamp rat. Sweet, sweet lady. The next worst thing to hellfire is a bad marriage. Marrying the wrong person is like living with the devil himself. And of course, sometimes you pick the wrong person to marry, and you go, "Oops, that was dumb. What were my criteria?" Well, usually you go over what criteria, and you know exactly what criteria it was. Doggone it. Cognitive dissonance. It occurs for a lot of different things. I told you my wife bought that blue car, that blue Honda. Turned out to be a really crappy car. It wasn't crappy just because it's blue, but it was blue. Uh-oh, you taking pictures of it? You probably got a flash off the window or something.
New profile pic.
Salespeople use high-pressure techniques to make their sales. In a technique known as lowballing, they will get you to agree to a low price for a standard vehicle. After you agree, then they start adding the cost by adding needed accessories. Although the cost is more than you wanted to pay, you agree because you are already thinking of driving after the sale. They will give you a price. They will say, this car costs $20,000, and you're going to buy a new car. Well, once you agree on which car you want, now they start adding things. Well, we need undercoat. You need a really good radio. You look like a person that listens to a lot of good music, so you need a good radio. You need good woofers and tweeters or something. So we can add that for an extra $250. That's not so much. We can do the undercoating for $1,200. There we go. Well, that $20,000 car all of a sudden cost $2,175. Uh-oh, wait a minute. What else do you need? They've got. Oh, you need to be able to see behind you when you're backing up. So we can put this camera in for $1,000. Not a bad price. There's a lot of fog where you live, so you're going to need fog lights. We can put those things in for $600. There you go. Now that $20,000 car is costing close to $2,400 all of a sudden. $24,000. I'm sorry, $20,000 car. It costs $24,000. So do you not buy the car? Since you need all these things, and boy, you sure would like those fog lights. Damn it! Not only that, but you sure need that undercoating. Do you really need the undercoating? Try to tell them you don't want the undercoating, especially if it's on there already. I don't want the undercoating. Can you take it off? I want a red car and it's got all this crap on it, but I don't need all that crap. Go ahead and take it off, and I'll pay the $20,000 for that car. Well, that's what happened to my wife. She got all this extra stuff. She got a turn lane thing that told her when she was changing lanes, it shook the steering wheel, as stupid as that sounds. She had a backup camera behind her car. She had fog lights, all kinds of really horrible things, but she had a blue car and she hates blue. But she bought it anyway. She made a mistake. Because they sold her the damn car. She wanted a red car. You should always get a red car if you want a red car. Don't buy a damn silver car. He was sitting here telling me that silver cars you can't see scratches in. Oh, it was Travis. Travis was telling me that that's why you need a gray car. He had a red car one time, and it showed every nick and scratch in it. Okay. Lowballing works because sense of commitment triggers the anticipation of an exciting event. Price only slightly higher than the other prices elsewhere, of course. Make sure you go ahead and buy. When you're looking for a new house, let's assume that you're going to move to, where do you want to move? Tucson. You're moving to Tucson, and you find a house. Your price range is between $50,000 and $100,000. You're looking for a house in that range. So you go to the real estate agent, and guess what he shows you? Does he show you $75,000 houses? Hell no. He shows you $120,000 houses. Well, that's a little over. This is a little over your price range, but I think you can afford it. You know, it's one of those kind of deals. Well, $100,000 is my limit. Nope, he's going to show you $120,000 house. It's just a little bit more. It's just an extra $50 a month. That's the way they do it. This is known as lowballing. We face moral dilemmas on a relatively frequent basis. These dilemmas challenge our sense of self-esteem. Our decisions in these instances are likely to entail dissonance reduction, which will make us more or less ethical in the future. And so these are our moral dilemmas that we face. And we face these moral dilemmas on a continual basis. Do I cheat? Do I drive faster than I'm supposed to drive? And if you're here on the reservation, of course you do. How fast do you drive when you go to Gallup? Top end. 50?
I don't trust people in Gallup.
Well, you're driving between here and Gallup, so you're driving.
Oh, like true Gallup? Like
Yeah.
70?
70?
I don't trust people.
I don't go any slower than 70.
You don't ever go faster?
Slower.
Slower than
70. If I go lower than 70, that's going too slow.
Your car doesn't work properly.
I need to go faster than 70.
You have to go faster than 70. So what's the top end? 80? 85?
I'm comfortable at 80. You're 65.
65? It's only 10 miles over the speed limit.
If I'm like by myself without my daughter, then I'll speed like 70 to 80.
70?
If I'm with her though, I go the speed limit.
55?
55 to 60.
Oh, jeez. Poor thing. She never gets where she's going.
Hey, at least she doesn't keep her at
How fast is
60
she
to
going?
65.
60 to 65?
About 65.
65?
Yeah, I gotta take care of the engine, make it last.
Ah, okay. I like that rationalization. How fast?
It depends. I'm gonna be honest. I don't always speed limit.
Ever? Neither.
No, never.
That's okay. I come from the state where the 500, Indianapolis 500 is. Everybody drives really fast.
I don't drive.
You don't drive, okay.
My husband does also drive. I don't really drive, like.
I have a brother, he used to drive really, really fast. He had a really nice car. Bought a new Nova before he went off to war. When he came back from war, he sold his Nova and he bought a smaller car. He always drives the speed limit. Always. Always.
My speed, I balance between two things. My safety and my time. Those are my two of my most important commodities, my two important resources, my health and my time. So my speed will balance. If the conditions of the road are okay, I'll go fast.
His has to do with PTSD. So he always follows the rules. He's always very ethical. He got fired from his job for doing the ethical thing. He was working for the state of Indiana. And they fired him because he wouldn't approve things he shouldn't have approved. So he got fired. So he's always very ethical. Always drives the speed limit. Always does the right thing. Because in Vietnam, he didn't do that. It's part of his PTSD. It's really kind of interesting. Drives you crazy. Drives 55 in a 55. He'll have 50 cars. Doesn't care. He's keeping those people honest is what he's doing.
So are you saying that people that do the right thing have PTSD?
No, I'm saying he has PTSD and that's why he does the right thing. Before he went to Vietnam, he drove as fast as everybody else did. When he came back, he was a Boy Scout, and it's because of some of the things that he did over in Vietnam. But that's him, you know. That's what he did. I wouldn't suggest that anybody else would do that kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, a lot of people broke laws. They broke the rules. They came back and they were drug addicts, and they started pushing drugs, smoking a lot of dope. A lot of them,
Motorcycle gangs.
yeah, joining motorcycle gangs, exactly. A lot of these guys didn't make it very far, but then again, they didn't want to. They were almost suicidal. They passed 58,000 people died in the war in Vietnam. They passed 58,000 suicides in 2000. 58,000 suicides of men coming back from Vietnam. Men who were in the war. 58,000. So there were a lot of suicides after Vietnam. And that was probably half of all real suicides. A suicide has to be diagnosed as a suicide. You know, put the gun to your head and pull the trigger. But there were individuals that ran off the road, you know, one-car accidents. They were trying to kill themselves, so they were going 120 miles an hour and ran into a tree. Well, that's the same thing. But it wasn't counted as a suicide. could have been accidental. Individuals who, oh, today's Ash Wednesday, so if you see anybody walking around with a cross on the forehead, I was just warning you because the first time it happened, there's dirt on your head, you know.
What's Ash Wednesday?
Sorry?
What's Ash Wednesday?
Ash Wednesday is the first day of Easter. Is the first Holy Day. So, yeah, this is Mardi Gras has been going on until today. Today's the first day. It's the first day. It's the first day of Lent. This is the last day of Mardi Gras. It was yesterday. It was Fat Tuesday, Shrove Tuesday.
You give something up, right?
You have to, yeah, you have to give something up for Lent.
Okay.
Okay. That's if you're Catholic.
We just did it for fun in school.
You used to do it for fun.
Yeah, my teacher like, hey, do you guys want to do this? And we're like, sure.
This sounds like a good time. Let's all give something up. I'm giving up cigarettes. There you go. Oh, you don't smoke them.
My cousin's sister gave up eating meat for a month. She set the date for like 1 month. And after that, she hated eating meat. She can't eat it anymore.
What? Yeah, you stop
That's
doing
weird.
something and you can, it tastes different. It'll taste different for you. So I imagine that's what happened. When a person decides to resolve a moral dilemma by being unethical, they can reduce their dissonance in two different ways. One, according to the dissonance theory, it is likely that you would try to justify the action by finding a way to minimize the negative aspects of the action that you chose. In other words, it wasn't so bad, everybody else was doing it. You could adopt a more lenient attitude toward cheating, convincing yourself that it is a victimless crime that does not hurt anybody, that everybody does it, and so it's not really that bad. I cheated once when I was in college, I know. And I still talk about it, I still feel like shit because I cheated that one time. It was a final for Anglo-Saxon. I know, you guys have lost all respect for me. It was an Anglo-Saxon final. Anglo-Saxon final, what's that? Anglo-Saxon is a language, and I was learning how to speak, or how to read Anglo-Saxon. And of course, I'm not real bright. I'm kind of dumb. So I didn't realize all these guys had been interpreting all this Anglo-Saxon by going to the library and finding a translation and copying the translation. I didn't realize this. I was doing it myself. I was struggling over all these words. Anglo-Saxon is it's kind of a cross between German and English. I know. So a lot of the words are just out there somewhere, and anyway. So I'm doing this all by myself, and the dictionary in the back of the book is really crappy. So half the time I'm not getting half the words. And I've got a B- average going, which is okay with me because B's are fine as far as I'm concerned, but it was the final. And so here we're all sitting there, and the professor, he's my advisor, he's a really sweet guy, just the nicest guy in the whole wide world. And he says, okay, well, you guys go ahead and take the final. When you're done, just slip them under my door. So he takes off. And so slowly, people just keep leaving. And I'm thinking, wow, they're really good at this. I must be just dumb as dirt. Well, what's going on is these guys are headed over to the library, they're finding a translation, and they're just copying the translation. These are all fraternity guys. I'm an independent. I don't understand all this shit. So I'm like, there's two of us left in the room, and we're working away, and we're going back to the back of the book, and this other guy comes over, and he's a fraternity guy. He goes over and says, you run track, don't you? Well, why don't you come over to the library? Everybody's getting the translation over there. If you turn in your paper now, he'll give you an F because it's not going to be as good as everybody else's translation. I know. It was a nice guy. He told me to cheat. So I did. I went over and I copied the translation. I made a couple of mistakes just so that it wouldn't look like I was copying the translation.
Oh, verbatim.
And I got an A- on the final, and I got an A- in the class. I felt so bad because I cheated. It's the first and only time I cheated. I felt so bad. that summer, I graduated, that was my, I was a senior. That summer, I translated the entire book, all by myself. And that's what I did for recreation over the summer, was translate my Anglo-Saxon, Wright's Anglo-Saxon reader. Oh my God, I felt so bad.
But did you ever think that there would be other students cheated as well?
They all were cheating. They were cheating throughout the whole damn class.
I bet if you hadn't cheated and you're the only one who failed and all these other people somehow got most of them right, the instructor probably would have said, something's not right. I think something else would have something different would have
This is a fraternity. A whole fraternity system. I got a D in religion class. That's a shock. I got a D in religion class. I got an F on the final. And the reason I got an F on the final is because we had taken this class all semester long, and the guy that gave the test was on sabbatical. Well, he came back just before the final, and he gave us his final. But we'd been learning from other people, not him, and he gave us his final. And so the fraternity guys had copies of his old finals, and they were able to study his old final, and they all did really, really well on his final. And I flunked it because I'm not a fraternity person. So I wasn't able to study his final tests. But I don't feel bad about that. I don't feel bad about getting a D in religion class because I'm ethical. A lot of these guys became lawyers. Shock. I know. A lot of these guys were draft dodgers. They stayed out of the military there were a lot of ways to stay out of the military. And I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel bad about going into the military. I don't feel bad about not cheating. I don't feel bad about getting a D in my religion class. I do feel bad about cheating on my Anglo-Saxon final.
Why do you feel bad?
I'm sorry?
Why do you feel bad?
Because I cheated. I didn't cheat him, I cheated myself.
Huh.
That's the way I feel anyway.
I knew an instructor, used to work here a while back, in the Net Studies program. He said the same thing. He noticed one day that on one of the tests that he wasn't there, he was proctored. Like half the class, most of the class, the answers were all verbatim the same on an essay question.
Uh-huh.
And that's when he knew people were cheating on that exam. And there was one student who was struggling, who was not raised in naval culture, so he was struggling already through the semester, but he said he's the only one that it was out of his own, in his own words, all the questions. And so he said, this guy gets it. What we're teaching, so he said, the instructor he showed me, he's like, look at all these answers on these tests are the same. And it was weird, almost all verbatim, the answers were exactly the same. I said, he didn't even try to adjust and change a couple words, it was all the same. Then that one student had only a couple sentences, and he said, I'm gonna pass this student no matter what. This is gonna be the one student that I pass.
Great, he was the only Belagana guy in the class got an A.
But that's what he said, they're just cheating themselves.
Exactly, you're just cheating yourself. I didn't really understand cheating. I mean, it just didn't make any sense to me. I was playing cards with this one lady one time, and I was winning. And all of a sudden, she went out. And I'm going, how did that happen? You just picked up a whole stack of cards. This doesn't make any sense. And what she had done, she had taken the one card on top, and that was the card she wanted to discard, but she just discarded all of the rest of her hand at the same time. And we all caught her and we said, that's cheating. And she said, no, it's not. There's no rule that says you can't discard more than one card. Of course, that was implied. That was what everybody else was doing. That's what everybody was doing through the whole thing. And I realized, why would you cheat in a card game? I mean, she didn't win anything. She just wanted to win. It was that important to her. And she later became a lawyer. And she's the most unethical lawyer you can possibly imagine.
Are lawyers supposed to be like that?
Sorry?
Aren't lawyers supposed to be like that though?
She was. She already had this mindset that cheating was okay, and I was just shocked to no end.
They think it'd be a good thing too, though.
What, cheating?
Yeah.
I have never been able to rationalize.
I cheated once my whole life.
Did you feel bad about it, or was it a good thing?
I felt so bad about it, I never did it again.
That's exactly what happened with me. So when I was in the military and I had a job to do, I did the whole damn job. I didn't sit down and watch other people do my job for me. I did it myself. And I don't feel bad about that. You know, I took missions that other people wouldn't take, and I have never felt bad about
Later, broke up, found out she was cheating too, and I didn't feel so bad about it.
I can agree with that.
No, I think that's
The same thing too.
But I still remembered how it felt afterwards, so I just left that.
it. I never cheated on any of my wives. They cheated on me, but I never cheated.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
I'm sorry?
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Cheating on a test and cheating on your significant other are two totally different things.
It is, you're right, but it's still
They're very
cheating.
But actually knowing that your significant other cheated on you will make you cheat as well too. So at the end, you
That's
shouldn't
not
feel
true.
bad.
It didn't happen to me.
You know, I'm not a
That
bad
happens to me
person,
all
so.
the time.
It didn't happen to me. I didn't cheat on my ex-wives despite the fact my ex-wives cheated on me. I didn't feel like it gave me the right to do what they did.
Oh my God, they're cheating on me. I should do the same thing and stay in this relationship. The relationship.
I'll we'll destroy each other. This is
Well, you know, there's a lot of marriages like that. People can't get out of the relationship.
yeah, I understand.
It's being cheating when you're single and cheating when you're married. It's the same thing, but they're two total different situations. You're committed.
Well, one is a commitment, the other is
Legally.
a non. You're
And
not
then there's like
committed.
different definitions of cheating when you're in a relationship as well. Not only just having sex.
Why am I not surprised these are all coming from men?
Yeah.
No, women do the same.
Okay.
Women are equal in their thought process and exactly in their ability to cheat and do everything is bad. And men aren't worse than women. We're the same, and women do this to men all the time. I've seen good men get cheated on. I've been cheated on, and like I said, I didn't feel bad later.
Are you good?
Huh?
Are you a good man?
I wouldn't say I was always a good man, but women cheat just as much as men do.
Relationships
I know some
are
women that actually cheated on their men because the same thing that I said. They knew that their men cheated on them, so they didn't think more.
They get revenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah,
for their
revenge.
own benefit, for their own self-pleasure. That's why they did that. But then the relationship didn't last. But then at the end, they were satisfied.
So the moral of the story is that men shouldn't cheat first.
No, men or women should cheat either.
Well,
If you have intentions of cheating, just don't be in a relationship.
it's all
Actually,
rationalization.
moral of the story is that people cheat, and sometimes they can get over it.
You're rationalizing your behavior is what you're doing. You're saying it's okay. She did it, so it's okay if I did it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's
I actually cheat.
rationalization.
I actually cheat all the time, not relationship-wise. When I
On
go
your
running-
tests?
No, when I go running, exercise, races, I actually take supplements for me to give me energy to win.
So winning is so important that you would cheat to
Yeah.
win?
I think there's times where it is.
Are you Canadian? I'm just kidding. Just curious.
I think there's times where it's necessary to cheat. You have to use every advantage you have to win. When it's relating to your health or your life, I think
Yeah.
you have to take every
It's
advantage.
this just has to do with winning. It doesn't have anything to do with health.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, so.
Like I've seen people say that people who say winning isn't everything never had cancer. You know, like there's some times where you have to win. You have to win. Your life depends on it, or someone that you love.
There is no cheating with cancer.
I know. Like if it's like helping you, that's not cheating.
No, we're talking about winning. We're talking about winning.
Well, no, we're talking about living and dying as well.
Well, again, going back to living and dying in the military, I'm not going to play by the same rules that my enemy is playing by. Sorry if you don't have the same advantage that I do. I want to use every advantage to win.
There is no cheating in war, right? There is no cheating.
Yeah, when you're at war, that's, yeah.
Isn't that why they have spies?
Spies, sure. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, unless they get caught.
Yeah, that's cheating right there. That's like,
That's not cheating.
If you're playing a
That's like having
game
a
and you
person
send
go
over
over
a
there.
spy, that's cheating. Like you're
Yeah,
playing a card
exactly.
game. If you're playing a card game, if you're in war, then there's no rules.
There are no rules in war, or love, unfortunately.
but you're actually sending somebody out from your own army
It's not
to go
cheating.
over there and find that information.
That's
and all
not
that,
cheating.
So that you can get a lead in whatever was going to happen.
That's not cheating.
It's taking advantage.
That's
just an
still not
advantage.
cheating.
It's just an advantage. Like, oh.
If I've got a gun and you've got a rock, that's not cheating.
I think where it's cheating is when there's an
Cheating, give
expected,
me a gun.
there's an expected amount
Exactly.
of trust and fidelity
Sure.
between two people,
Yeah.
two groups, two partners.
If I shake hands with you and then stab you with my other hand,
Yeah, that,
okay, then I cheated.
Then it wouldn't be a fair fight.
It wouldn't be a fair fight, but that's okay, because there are no rules in life and death situations. The Japanese do not feel bad about bombing Pearl Harbor. We consider it a sneak attack, but as far as the Japanese are concerned, that's the way warfare is handled.
9/11, same thing. too.
9/11, sure. They didn't feel bad about it. We were pissed off because
You're not gonna say that they cheated because they.
there is no cheating in
Yeah,
life
you're
in
not
that
gonna say
situation.
that.
So how come they say all's fair in love and war?
In war, and war. All's fair in love and war. Love and war, yeah. Well, I mean, in relationships, it's the same thing. That's a war. Some people consider themselves at war with the opposite sex. And of course, there have been authors that talk about these things. I don't know. Maybe we can figure this out, since we're in social psychology. An individual who chooses to be ethical and will suffer cognitive dissonance as well. They may justify losing what they would have gained by their unethical behavior by convincing themselves that the unethical behavior is worse than their loss. After rejecting the unethical behavior, they will be more adamant about remaining ethical. Right now, we're dealing with a president that's a businessman. Business is done differently than politics is. And for that reason, there's a lot of people that are really upset with some of the things that he has done. Like, what is with him and the Russians? What's going on with that? But he's a businessman, so his ethics are completely different from political ethics. Political ethics, and that's it's this cognitive dissonance that's causing the problem. And he may lose his presidency because of it. But it has to do with business. And business is an unethical thing. In business, how do you win? How do you win in business? You make the most money. So are there any ethics involved with making money? If you screw your workers out of 50 cents an hour, is that unethical?
Yeah.
No, it's good business. I know.
Well, aren't you
But
cheating
I'm a
if you
worker,
do
so I care about that 50 cents an hour.
But aren't you cheating if you do so?
Not as far as business is concerned. And that's part of the problem. Now he's got his whole administration are business people, billionaires, and they've got a different mindset. Their mindset is winning, is making money. And that is part of their mindset, and we need to stop right here. We'll pick this up next time. And we'll talk more about ethical and unethical behavior.